Ah, there you are. As Mother Teresa was fond of saying when she greeted volunteers from the world over who showed up at her doorstep at the mission she ran in Calcutta, India, "We have been expecting you." My name is Steve, but who I am is really not important. What is more significant is why you have chosen to show up on the doorstep of this website, The Last Addict. Perhaps you are one of those individuals who is currently in the throes, in the grasp of some addictive experience, and you are looking for a way to escape that experience. Or perhaps you're part of the collateral damage that an addictive experience often pulls into its sphere of influence, like some black hole in outer space. And you are now caught up in that chaos and are looking for solutions, looking for answers as to how you might extradite yourself from that. Either way, you have come to the right place. In a few minutes, you are going to be meeting with 5 unique individuals who, along with myself, have been given a unique possibility that has helped us personally deal with the black holes that were threatening our own existence. But before that happens, I want to bring your attention to some significant and rather extraordinary statements that were made by the authors of a book that many of you may be familiar with, the book Alcoholics Anonymous. Interestingly enough, all of these 4 statements are contained in a single page. On page 25 of this book, they make the following contentions. The first is that there is a solution. Now that's somewhat unique when you consider that today the common, the view that is held of addiction is that it is some sort of incurable disease. Yet they said there was a solution to it. Their second statement is more of the Star Trek variety, in that they said, we have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence, of which we had not even dreamed. Imagine that, rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence. Unfortunately, there is no definitive spacecraft or way that is mentioned in the rest of the book that can also rocket you into that 4th dimension. The third statement takes us back to the spiritual realm, in that it says, the great fact is just this and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe. Once again, a powerful statement, a powerful contention, but without a definitive way, other than perhaps the community of Alcoholics Anonymous, to in fact find that effective and powerful spiritual experience, a connection to some higher power. And then the final statement. If you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, We believe there is no middle of the road solution. Now that's pretty cut and dry. However, what is the road? What particular road can you use to extradite yourself from some black hole, from some addictive experience? Now, what I want to tell you is that the six of us have no disagreement with any of these four statements. We also believe that there is a solution. We believe that that solution involves entering a different dimension of existence, a level of existence where addiction and many of the concurrent mental health disorders that accompany it cannot follow us. We also believe that that experience, the experience of that fourth dimension, can often feel as though it is spiritual in nature, as though we have in some way been able to communicate with a higher power. And finally, yes, we also agree that there is no middle of the road solution, no matter how much you may look for it or think that it does exist. So what we want to do is we want to invite you to consider the possibility of looking at the step that we took, a single step that we took to come to the conclusion that all of these four statements are absolutely accurate. In some ways, you may consider this to be the missing step of the 12-step program of AA, the step that complements and makes all of the other steps successful in terms of helping individuals with their particular addictive experiences. So, if you are, as we were, of the opinion that we could surrender to the possibility of following the motto of the Starship Enterprise, perhaps you're ready to boldly go where you have never gone before. If that's the case, then I would like to invite you to visit with the crew of The Last Addict. The first of the members that you will be listening to is a gentleman by the name of David. And I'd like to say that I first met David when he decided to admit himself to a year-long recovery program. So, enjoy your visit with David.
Hey, good morning. How are you? My name is David. I am sitting here today with a very good friend of mine, and I'm going to convey a message to you based around my experiences that have happened as I've walked along a new path in life. 10 years ago, I wouldn't be sitting here. I was literally living in the worldly world, looking for everything in life on an external level. I thought I could touch happiness. I thought I could eat happiness. I thought I could find happiness from putting things inside of myself to make a change, to get that feeling I'd always been looking for. And as time went on, I constantly was searching for something that I thought would make me feel better. And once again, as time went on, I started to learn that it was from a very young age where I realized there was something I was looking for, something I was trying to find. Again, always looking outside of myself. Then, as the progression started, I started finding new ways into life through methods of contemplation and things that I do for myself today, self-introspection on myself, getting honest with myself. I started developing a peace and a happiness that was no longer part of the outside world. I started finding a peace and happiness that was coming from within. And I sit before you today, and for lack of better words to explain it, chatting about something that's so experiential for me today that there really is no words for it. The minute I started to recognize that I had to do very little in order to find my happiness within life, it became very confusing, to be honest with you. It is almost completely contradictory to everything I ever thought in life as I went through it. I always thought I had to go out and search for it and find a way to touch it, feel it, and bring it in. And the truth of the matter is that, I sit before you today recognizing that it was always with me. It was always with me. It was always inside of me. And it had nothing to do with the outside world. As I started connecting with that part of myself in this human body, what happened was absolute peace, joy, happiness, and contentment with self. So I don't know where you're at in your life. I don't know what you're searching for, and that's not for me to know. But if anything I've said here fits into a model of maybe what you're looking for, I can tell you one thing, and I'm going to reiterate it. It's not going to be found outside. There's nothing external out there. There's nothing I can reach out and grab out here that's going to find happiness. That has never worked. As I started going inside and started finding that peace within myself, I came to terms with new statements such as, happy is a choice. What do I want to make in the morning? Where do I want to go? And I sit before you an individual who, when I refer back to that man 10 years ago, would have absolutely no concept of what I'm talking about today within it. I would be out there looking for it in all the wrong places. So I sit here today conveying the message that if any of what I've said makes any sense to you or fits into your life or what you're looking for, there is a path, there is a way, and I guess, so to speak, there is a method that can get you there. So, I hope you find some words of wisdom within this and make a choice for yourself to go along a path.
Thank you, David. Next up is crew member Bobby. Bobby represents the reality of the collateral damage that the addictive experience creates in this world. Bobby grew up in a household where her father passed away as a result of his alcoholism. Later in life, she would befriend a man who was going through the throes of his own addictive experience, and eventually came across this missing step. Uniquely, when he introduced Bobby to that step, she fell in love with it. So perhaps it is the step that some of you parents, spouses, partners, siblings are looking for. Enjoy your time with Bobby.
Hello, my name is Bobby, and welcome to The Last Addict. I find this very emotional, and in a good way, because it's brought so much to my life and to the people around me. It's been a wonderful experience. I haven't been doing this for very long, but my life has changed, not only for myself, but the few people that I've been able to encourage and help through all of this. I have a close, dear friend and roommate that had struggled with alcohol and drugs for many years, and being able to live with him and understand and help him through all of this has helped me realize my life before that with a lot of alcohol and drug addictions in my family. Um, oops, it's very overwhelming, but in a good way. I feel that what it's done for me too is helping my friend and my roommate. It's been a lot of love that I didn't even know that was there, and unconditional love. It's just being there for somebody that really needs you. And in my life, because I'm the type of person that I love to help, and I love to see people come through whatever it is in their life. And that experience for me has been one of the best things that could ever happen to me, or to my roommate, or the people in the future that I can help with that problem, because I know a few. And just passing this information on to them in the last while, like at work, just knowing that I'll be doing this. I didn't go into detail, but I did tell them that, there is something there for you if you haven't been happy with, or you haven't felt that it's doing you any good. I guarantee that if you go this route, it will help you 150%, and your life will change. Like I said, at this point, I'm feeling like very overwhelmed and very full of love to be involved in this whole experience. And I guarantee you that down the road, if you follow through on this, and you do this, that your life will change. Again, seeing my friend who I love dearly. We haven't been together for that many years, but in that time, he has introduced me to this, and for that, I am eternally grateful for him. Not only that, I've been able to help him, he's been able to help me experience the hue.
Thank you, Bobby. Now I'd like you to say hello to Brett. We also first met when Brett decided to give a year-long recovery program a try. I guess in his case, Brett had been through the gamut of addictive experiences, and he was at the point where he was ready to listen to a new and different possibility. And although he originally toyed with this missing step, today it has become an integral part of his existence, of his daily experience. So enjoy your time with Brett.
Well, hello there. My name is Brett, and I'd like to welcome you to The Last Addict. Many years of my life were spent searching in sometimes both healthy and unhealthy ways. Probably for a couple decades, that searching had come with ceremonies, drugs, alcohol, many different experiences along the way, having met many different people. But all of that was redundant, really, because there was just something inside of me that I was not comfortable with. And for years I blamed certain individuals or my upbringing or whatever, but at the end of the day, there was something missing. And so I continued to frantically search and try new things and try different things, and quite often just try the same old thing, but no matter what I did, or I couldn't run away from myself. And so in about 2013, while I was in a recovery center, I was introduced to this possibility of having my own ceremony, my own drug, you could say. And that came with just a simple word. Ever since I was introduced to that word, my life slowly changed for the better. I was able to let go of many things in my past that I wasn't necessarily proud of. I've been able to reestablish relationships with not only myself, but others, like family, just people that would come into my life. I noticed that I'd be able to maintain that relationship rather than run the other way and forget everything and run, which is an acronym for fear. And when letting go of the fear and stuff from my past, I was able to bring in a more love into my life. And I think that's what was attracting me to me, and possibly others to me as well, is slowly but surely I just started to notice changes and differences that I was making in my life. Probably a couple words that come to mind is a self-awareness and self-responsibility. I started to face everything and recover, which is an acronym for a healthy fear, rather than forget everything and run, which was my my usual routine. So, when I was introduced to this word, I began to sing it and work with it every day. In fact, that became my new addiction. And I truly believe that if one wants to change their life or recover from whatever it is they're suffering, they've got to replace it with something that they love. And for me, this is what I did. I was told to sing this word until it became a part of me. And that's what I did. In fact, I began to become so comfortable with this word that the outside kind of external world just became a little more irrelevant to me at times. And I think this is the stillness that I started to enter into, is stillness of mind, but even deeper than that. Some will go to call it spirit or soul. I feel this is where I was, the realm that I was starting to enter into. According to AA material, it's often mentioned in the Big Book that the only way we can recover from our alcoholism or addictions is by having a vital spiritual experience. And we get a daily reprieve that is contingent based upon our spiritual condition. So to me, that told me that's almost the foundation of my recovery. And I began to tap into that. There's a Sanskrit word called samadhi, and this means stillness of mind. And that is the area that, for me anyway, that needed to be calmed down, because my mind can be very manipulative and curious, and can get me into trouble if I'm not careful. But if I if I use my due diligence and do my what I call spiritual exercises by singing this word, those monkeys in my mind tend to calm down a lot more, and I'm better suited for the day and then to take on the day, I guess, so it doesn't take me on. And as time went on, I became detached from the drugs, alcohol, all these self-harming situations that I was putting myself into. And today, very rarely am I subdued by the obsession to drink or use, or cravings, as they're often mentioned as. I just don't have that anymore, and I can deal with life on more of my terms, rather than all the other stuff out there. And I think for that reason, that's is why I'm maintaining a job these days and maintaining work. I've been living at the same place for almost 2 years now, which is a record for me. I used to jump around from place to place every other month, it seemed. And with that, there's more stability in my life in all areas. I think financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, etc. So, 20 minutes in the morning, if I have time before work, I will sing it. If not, quite often I don't. So I have a personal CD that I use and play in the car, which utilizes the 20-minute ride to work. And so I'm in a nice, calm space before work even starts. And at the end of the day, I do it again before retiring and going to bed. It's just 20 minutes to myself, or sometimes with a friend. And I just make sure I do this on a daily basis, and I seem to get that reprieve that the AA Big Book was talking about. And I've been doing that for since about 2013. I was introduced to the word, so it's been actually about 5 years to this time. And I've had a few struggles along the way as far as maybe life on life's terms. I'm not saying this is going to be all smooth and rainbows and butterflies, but it does give one another way to approach life on life's terms, and how to deal with myself and others in a more loving way. And I think that's the key, is I did not know how to deal with things in a loving way. The only thing I knew how was, well, to basically react out of fear. And once I can replace that fear with love in my life, I think that's when my life started to change. And today, I feel I have that love within. So, thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Now it's time to meet crew member Peter. Like David and Brett, I introduced Peter to the first step. Actually, he responded to an invitation that I had put up on the bulletin board in our year-long treatment or year-long recovery program. And uniquely, he has never looked away from this simple but empowering step. His means of moving away from the addictive dimension of existence. Enjoy your time with Peter.
Hi, my name is Pete.
I agreed to be part of this, the Last Addict. I guess my introduction into a way to better myself and change came when I went into treatment, and I came to Edmonton. I committed to a year-long program, and at this facility, I was introduced to something that, from the very first time, it touched me. It opened. It kind of opened my soul. It was powerful. I can't describe it, but the feeling I had when I came out was something that I hadn't felt. I felt that this is something this is for me. This is something I need. This is something I want. It seemed to open my heart, my soul. It spoke to me. It brought me. It brought me hope. That I can change. Things can change for me. Things are going to change for me. It brought me such happiness the very first time I partook in it. It brought me to places. It was an unbelievable thing. Such good memories of places I'd been. I saw the mountains as an avid snowmobiler. We go back into the mountains south of town, and you're in nowhere. You're at the other side of Jasper. And I was in these valleys, and I could see things that I'd saw in those trips that I hadn't. I was there, but it was brought back to me. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was like I was standing there next to my machine and looking up at this wonderment, God's creation, and it was unbelievable. It was amazing. I lack to find a better term. It just opened my eyes. It said, "Wow!" I was just stunned that my experience was what it was. I knew nothing about it other than in the cafeteria there was a little sign talking about this thing at lunch and half an hour commitment, and when I went in and did it, from the very first time I was brought. It opened my eyes. I felt I knew that this is something I have to continue with this. It was amazing. It said, this is what I have to do.
Thank you, Peter. Now for the final member of the Last Addict crew. Her name is Kathy. Kathy and I met under different circumstances. We met at what could be called a spiritual event, where the missing step was actually the focus of attention of that evening. I would later learn that Kathy had been introduced to this possibility years before me, but the chaos of her life had all but buried it. It would be later in life, where the conditions were more favorable, that the missing step returned to her existence, and she now lives a life that can only be described as truly amazing.
Hi, my name is Kathy, and welcome to The Last Addict. I'd like to talk a little bit about how much my life has changed, and especially in the last 10 years. I come from a lifetime of trauma and abuse. Lots of sexual abuse as a child, lots of domestic violence, family violence, neglect, abandonment, lack of love, a lot of painful, traumatic memories as a child. And as growing through my teenage years, that didn't really much change. I had a lot of sexual assaults, gang rape, a lot of physical violence, which led me down a path where I was traumatized internally and couldn't express myself. So what that ultimately did is I ended up falling into addiction, falling into the easy way out, which was, for me, was through alcohol. Although I did have a good education, I mean, I'm a nurse by trade, or I used to be a nurse by trade, I should say, that didn't necessarily help me up here, because in my case, it was easier for me to take care of everybody else's problems rather than my own. So when it came down to me, I didn't know how. So I had to take time off life to figure this out. What do I want to be when I grow up? How do I want to change? How do I fix this, right? But change takes time. It really does. And it took a lot of self-care, self-love, patience, and forgiveness for me to move on to the next step in my life. And today, what I do is I drive the biggest truck in the world. It's the coolest job ever. I'm a heavy equipment operator. I work up in the oil sands. I travel on my days off. I speak. I work with women in shelters. I work with women in prisons. I work with people that are trying to come off the streets and change their lives. I go internationally. I work with children that have been sexually abused. I fully intend on opening up a shelter and an orphanage in different countries in order to make a change, give people more of an awareness on personal development and how things can change, if you figure this out a little bit. But I mean, I had help. I had to find the right doorway, the right pathway for me to get to that next level. Because as much as we like to think, we can't always do things alone. And I needed that extra help, and I found it. And hopefully I'd like to share that with you today.
Thank you, Kathy. And welcome back. It's time for you to make a decision. No, we are not going to share the missing step with you at this particular time. We are not going to tell you how it has helped us reclaim our lives from some black hole. Before we leave you to your decision, I want to address those of you in particular who are the collateral damage caught up in someone's black hole of chaos. I want to tell you this, and you may not accept it, but your attention is actually feeding that black hole, not starving it. A young man once came to Mother Teresa prior to his departure from her mission and looked into her eyes and asked a very important question of her. He wondered what she would suggest he do in order to have a significant benefit, a significant effect on the world that he lived in. What could he do to save the world? In turn, she looked up into his eyes and she made the most profound statement to him. She said, "Save yourself." If you are truly looking to help someone caught up in an addictive experience, the first step for you is to save yourself. Yes, there is a registration process and a fee for finding out what this first, or what you might call the missing step, is all about. We are confident that neither will be a hindrance to your doing so. There is no cost to checking both out. Before I leave you, I would like to make a somewhat bold statement of my own. It is simply this: no matter what you may be thinking, you have never been, are not at this very moment, nor will you ever be an addict. That is an impossibility for you. But, and I emphasize that but, you can be part of an addictive experience until hell literally freezes over. And that, my friends, is a very long time. So the question is this: when would now, right now, be the right time to start moving your life, moving your existence into that fourth dimension that the authors of this book claim exists? A dimension where that addictive experience or concurrent mental health disorder can no longer infect, and I want to use that, emphasize that word, infect and play with your life or existence. When would now be the right time? If you need a little bit more encouragement to explore this missing step, here is how a man at approximately 1:30 on September 6th, 2012, expressed his view of that missing step. Every month is better than the last. I used to think it was a useless chore, that it had no fruit, no rewards. It doesn't get angry, doesn't hurt you, doesn't cost a penny. It just keeps on giving. It's like, what happened? We'll be looking for you just beyond the click of your mouse.